Jesus. Oh, look, it didn't hit the floor.
So,
Rick, you want to turn your microphone off?
Why?
I thought I made it.
Why?
we used to say that.
What?
Which teacher?
We're live.
Yeah.
Chase and Catherine, class 97, represent. Let's go.
Hallahan.
Now, Mr. Aldridge.
I said, I guess it's Howard.
I was gonna say, I guess Hallahan.
Yeah, I bet it was Hallahan.
After he'd sniffed his mouth.
And play the relaxation train.
I wish you knew what you're talking about.
Do we all just have one teacher right now?
He was great for the WWF trivia.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. He was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm in and I'm
Yeah.
out. And I'm in.
That's so. All day it's gonna be so uncomfortable.
Did you squirt it in here?
Suds.
Right in there. It's been a little blurry. It's over there.
Can you cross that? Oh my God.
I just messaged her. I can call her.
I sent a reminder of we get our worst turnout ever.
Well, what does that tell you?
One, two, three.
We have a quorum and I have 6:30.
Let's do
So do I.
So shall we?
we shall.
Good evening. I call this, what is it, November meeting of the Merrimack Valley School Board to order. We'll begin with roll call.
Tracy Berkey,
Yes.
Lori Carey, Eric Hansen,
Yes.
Owen Harrington, Sally Hurst Dickinson, here,
All right,
Peggy Jones Blanchard, here, Fred, Celia Longnecker,
here.
Bobby Joe Michael,
Here.
Melissa Muzzy, Laura Vincent,
Here.
Jessica Wheeler Russell, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the previous meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there are actually two meetings. One is the school board meeting, and the other is the Pennacook listening session meeting. Any comments, corrections, questions?
I don't know what she's talking to me. I apologize. All of my corrections are in the PDF, which I have not yet accessed, so whatever they are. None of the something that I remember that was like critical. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna-
Okay. Such a disappointment, Sally.
I'm so sorry.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries.
I would say.
Okay, I will now open the floor for public comment on items on the agenda. Is there anybody who wants to comment? Okay. Finance report.
In this month's packet, pages 1 through 18, you'll find November's finance report. On page 10, you'll find our overage report. Most of the overages are due to special ed contracted needs, as well as facilities and operational needs. You'll also still see, again this month, a lot of them that have the description will clear when transfers are made from the function 2900, which we hope to get to very shortly.
Okay. Could I have a motion to accept the finance report, please?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good news.
Okay, lots of good news in the packet tonight. It's pages 19 through 62 in your packet. So all sorts of good news. I want to take a moment to thank all the administrators who share the good news with the board in the packet every single month. It's always informative, highlights students engaged in active learning, and a lot of pumpkins this time. As you look through, you're going to see a lot of pumpkins and a lot of leaves. Before I go to the second part of good news, if there's any additional good news that I'm scanning the administrators in the crowd, they want to jump up and add right now. Otherwise, we'll let the good news in pages 19 through 62 speak for itself. All right, we started this last month, but we're officially reinvigorating pre-COVID practice of having school-based presentations. And prior to COVID, they were embedded in the good news aspect of this. If you recall, that I used to always introduce the host administrator. When we used to go from school to school, we would always have a host administrator. And when this became our permanent home, the host administrator became the administrator that had the group presenting. So we have Catherine Masterson with us tonight, who is our host administrator, even though you just saw David wheeling out some snacks. So he's probably the host administrator in your hearts right now. But Catherine is going to introduce a few teachers from LES that are going to do a presentation for the board.
Thank you. So tonight, LES is going to be presenting on our nature-based learning. And to present for us tonight, we have Jennifer MacDonald. Jennifer joined our kindergarten team about 3 years ago and brought with her just a wealth of knowledge and experience related to nature-based learning. And in partnering with Tracy Kufos, another one of our kindergarten team members, she found a very willing and eager participant to embark on this journey. They took full advantage of one existing outdoor classroom that we had at that time, and we've grown those since then as we have worked to grow nature-based learning at Loudon. So I'm going to turn it over to these two now.
Sure. I did print out the slideshow. I don't know if you guys want a copy. The last pages just have some of the resources that we've been using. So, yeah. Thank you. Just gotta skip here.
Now that we go.
Yes, please.
In 2019, we started using our outdoor classroom spaces and trails more regularly. Through the fall of 19, children in grades K through 5 were getting about 40 minutes a week of outdoor instruction, learning, and exploration. This initial dabble in forest days meant we were in a fairly good position to implement widespread outdoor learning when school had to be reimagined in the fall of 2020. The following presentation and slides highlight how teachers at LES have built forest days into their schedules. At LES, we believe that time in nature benefits children in all areas. Time outside helps children develop socially, academically, and physically. But perhaps most importantly, time outside helps children develop these elusive soft skills of grit, perseverance, confidence, creativity, teamwork, and resilience. Forest days and nature-based learning are great ways to incorporate all the elements of STEAM into the curriculum. In the following slide, you will see how the children at LES are engaged in all of these areas. And then these are some children in those areas of STEAM, observing, creating, and noticing. We keep at it in the winter, building, observing change over time, the deer have gotten to the hemlock trees and observing footprints in the snow. Tracy?
So you can see here, the kids are working on their engineering, experimenting. It really brings them together. I think it's the next slide too. We do a lot with our math outside. We try to use as much in nature that we can. So we've got kids collecting different materials so that when they get up into the outdoor classroom space, they can be using their 10 frames and other objects and tools that we bring up there. We have a lot of different things we'll do up there. We can use, we find things in nature to work on their names, to work on their letters. The older kids will go up there to find spots to read, sit spots to do their writing. You can see them just kind of spread out, taking in what they see and hear in nature. And it's just a great thing for them to be writing and talking about. The teamwork and imagination, I think that for me, that's one of the biggest things that I also see them. They get out there and it's a whole new world. There isn't, the playground and stuff is great, but it's tools that they're very familiar with. So when they get out in the woods, this upper group actually right here is some of my kiddos. It was a cool morning, and so they were pretending to make a campfire. We've got in the other far corner, that's their rocket ship, and they just really explore, and just working together is great. You see them trying to carry this big log, climbing up the mountain of snow. The next one. So the biggest thing that we just find is that when the kids get out there, they are exploring, they're really inquiring. There's a lot of I wonders and I notice, and it just sparks so much conversation. This is a group that was just recently out about a month or so ago, and they had found different bugs that were down in the grass, or the pines. So what brought us back into the classroom was trying to find out what those bugs were. The next one. And we have actually partnered up, so K1 and 2 are working with Prescott Farm, and we have, this is actually Ashley who comes in, and she sits down with us we actually just met with her last week during our PLC time. She comes in and she takes the kindergarten classrooms out. Each class, there's 3 classes at Loudon. And does an hour lesson. So we've been doing a lot around the trees and noticing the differences that are happening with the fall. We're going to start talking about what the animals are going to do as we start to come to the end of the fall and into winter. And so it really has been a great experience. It's good. It's a nice way to kind of get some of our teachers that are interested in this, but not really sure how to make that next step. And so she's a great resource to have. So our goal would be eventually to have that available K-5. And so we did just include some standards. It's definitely not a case of us just going out there and, hey, we're going to go out. It's a beautiful day. We're going to go play in the woods. We really try to look at what our plans are, whether it be in math, what our lessons are in reading, phonics, writing, and how we can incorporate those activities out into the classroom. And so these are some of the outcomes of what we have found with our forest days going outside. Definitely the kids love it. And we sometimes feel a little for the older kids, because if they've for the last couple of years had it with Jen and I, especially Jen definitely was the guru. And then they get to the older grades, they're like, well, when are we going to the outdoor classroom? They really do enjoy it. When they're out there, you do see the limits of, the behaviors and stuff to kind of start to settle down. They're able to be out there. They're able to be exploring. They're up walking. They're sitting in different ways. They're just really interested. And a lot of the kids, I found there was a year or 2 ago that I had one little guy that was so quiet in the classroom, and he'd get out into the woods and it was, all right, guys, here we go. And he just really found his voice out there. Parents are very supportive of it. We've had some parents, we do deal sometimes with a little bit of destructive things that happen up there. I think sometimes we get some people that get up into the woods. I don't want to necessarily say kids, but after hours, yeah. And so we've had outdoor cameras donated. The scouts have come up and done a lot for us. They've made some of the benches. You can kind of see they've notched a balance beam there for the kids up there, and they help with the cleanup. On the next one, teamwork. Like I said, the kids just get out there and their imagination just goes wild, and they just really start to explore, and they are working together to problem solve, to figure out how can they want to make forts, or how can we build this. We've had water runnage from the snow melt, and how can we make dams, and what can we do for those things. And then they're just out there physically being active. The first couple times we take them out to this space, it is like you would have thought we were taking them, I don't know, up Mount Washington. They're like, oh my gosh, we got to climb up this mountain. But again, they're working together, they're encouraging each other, and they do over time. They just really are building their stamina for that. And then, so these are just some resources that, Jen has definitely been a great resource, but has shared this with a lot of the teachers that are interested in just trying to incorporate this more into their day. We are lucky enough to outfit the kiddos. So this year we just got these great backpacks. So the kids all have a backpack. And yeah, sure, you can model. So we've got boots. So we do ask the families, and we show this at our kindergarten open house. We do show them the boots. Some families have asked where we've gotten them, but it just makes it so all students are able to get out there and explore. There's no limitations when we have all this stuff. We have rain pants that you can tell are definitely definitely enjoy using those. We have raincoats for the kids. And yes, Okiware has been good about wholesale pricing. Yeah. And then I think that's just, it was one of my students. So we've got our clipboard and their book they've been working on for outdoor. So yeah. And again, that's not just kindergarten. We're learning at the K level. We had a lot of really big sizes, not knowing what sizes to get the kids. And now we're kind of sharing the clothing with the older grades and being able to get a little more size friendly for little guys. So.
The first wet day in first grade, our kids looked to the first grade teachers and said, "Where are the boots? Where are the rain pants?" So they
know they have them. We have them. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything else.
So is this only for the younger kids, or what happens with
No, go ahead. I know you've been pushing them.
We started in kindergarten, and it's slowly making its way through the primary grades. It's harder for connections to be made to the rigor of the curriculum as they get older, right? It takes more planning. So those teachers are working on it, and having Ashley from Prescott Farm to assist them would really help them make the next step, because she takes the grade level expectations or the standards and then comes back with some lesson planning that is already done. And, she's ready to guide the teachers. The thought with Prescott Farm is that you utilize their resources for a few years, and then the teachers feel confident then to take those lessons over by themselves. It's also wonderful to have Ashley because it adds that second adult for classes who don't have classroom assistants. So that's very nice to have her for that.
I'm sorry if I missed this before, but is this at all grant funded, or is this entirely?
I was going to say, Catherine?
Or Randy?
Or Randy? Yeah, Randy. No.
We did access some ESSER funds, particularly in an activity that we wrote for outdoor experiences and getting kids outside of the building. So we had some funding for the outdoor classrooms at all of the schools, and also to get some of the rain gear that was part of that activity to get kids outside and doing things outside in the fresh air.
And so is it going to be sustainable going forward?
We're hoping that because the lifespan of a pair of boots can be, pretty long. So that after we start moving this up and we get more people involved, that we'll be able to kind of keep things going. Some of the schools have snowshoes enough to get multiple classes out now. So there's a lot of things like that we're hoping to, we were able to test things out, and for things that really show their value, to find a way to make that, something that we can do moving forward.
And I was just going to say too, like a lot of, we're fortunate where we are at Loudon, because actually, and I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but we did have a Boy Scout, Danny Dockham, that had created the initial outdoor space with some tables and stuff. And then, so we kind of had that space up on this hill. And then, as Catherine was saying, and Jen and I, and dragged our husbands along and cleared out spaces to have up there. But at the same time, last year I had a student that really struggled with being outside in the woods around bugs. So we just used stools right outside of our classroom. And I think that's the thing too, is just for people that maybe we don't have the space, or maybe nervous about going into the woods, just getting outside. And we have now outside on our playground, I think all the schools may have them. And I see Fred here, like the benches, some wooden benches and stools. So there is that sense that, like, that baby step for some people that maybe aren't comfortable to actually get out in the woods, but at least get outside. And I do see that happening with quite a few of our teachers. They may not actually go up into the outdoor space, but they are trying to find ways to get their kids outside and explore what's happening outside. And I guess the last thing I would just say is that for me, it's surprising how many of our kiddos, these are experiences that until we take them out there, they are not getting. I can say that, so the last couple of years I take my kids snow tubing over at the soccer field, and I've had kids every year that they've never gone sledding before. So it's things like that that I do think too, just all these opportunities to get them outside of the classroom and learn that there's more outside of the classroom is just as important as anything we're teaching them in the classroom. So, yeah.
There's one more slide. I think.
Oh, yep.
I just want to reference. There's two wonderful
Yeah.
There's two wonderful videos here that you can reference on Sunday morning when you're having a cup of coffee. That will inspire you to support outdoor learning throughout our district. So, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Welcome.
We do, but it's embedded in the agenda. Yeah, because that was a.
Thank you.
Well,
That
and
was
that concludes
terrific.
good news.
All right. Well, that's very good news. I want to know how much this is going on in the other schools. Not as formally, or
We do have outdoor classrooms in all of the schools.
Uh-huh.
The extent to which people are getting outside, probably not as much as these two, but we're using them to get everyone, following the Pied Piper and getting kids
yes,
outside.
you need to get on the road and get your colleagues in the other buildings doing what you're doing. That's terrific. Thank you.
Katie Nutt has a question.
Katie?
Can I speak to that question you just had?
Yes.
So we actually do have an outdoor classroom here. It's right behind the BD field, right in the woods. And last year, I know Kylie Yam took all of her classes out there, her biology classes and forensic science classes. And during all good weather days, she'd go out there and like go find lichen, go find moss, go find this, and it would let us be able to explore and find things that we didn't always know and then connect it to what we were learning in class. So it is happening at the high school level as well.
Awesome. And guess what? It's your turn.
So good news recently in the school. So National Honor Society has begun their annual community service projects, which is when you get in a group of like 5 or 6 students and you join a group of like elderly, veterans, homeless, and you perform some sort of community service task to benefit those people. So I'm in the veteran/elderly group. So on November 22nd, we're going to go up to the veterans home in Tilton, and we're bringing them like cookies and brownies, and we're going during their coffee hour just to visit with them and talk with them because they really enjoy that. So that's really exciting. I know other groups, trash day for the environmental group, like the teacher group last year. I know they did baskets for all the teachers to thank them for everything that they do for us. So I just think that's a really good thing happening in the school. Spanish Honor Society, we're scheduled to volunteer at Loudon Food Pantry next Tuesday to help them sort out everything that they have for Thanksgiving food. We did it last year as well, but they basically get huge like trash barrel sizes of canned goods and no time to sort it. So we go over there and we sort everything for them. So it's all prepared for Thanksgiving. So when people come, they can just go right to what they need. Then in October, the NEASC accreditation people came here, and I think it went really well. There was separate student-led conversations with certain members, and we were able to speak to how the school affects us, whether the academic learning is hard enough and challenging enough for us. And overall, I think they had a good experience in the 3 days that they were here. And then FBLA completed their fall leadership conference on October 20th. They placed third in the piggy bank design and first for the most amount of money raised. That's the extent of my knowledge because I'm not in FBLA. And I had a joke. It's not that great though. The bank keeps calling me to give me compliments. They keep saying I have outstanding balance.
Thank you, Katie.
Katie, I think this is a different crowd that I encountered last month.
Moving on to committee reports. Policy committee, Melissa wasn't able to make it tonight. Randy, are you gonna?
Sure. We do have some action from the board. So we have a few different policies that we went over at our meeting on the 24th of October. IHAK, the character and citizenship, was discussed. There'll be some ongoing work with that particular policy. Policy IKE, grade level and classroom student placement, was discussed and modified. And there was a motion, and a motion carried to bring IKE to the full board with a waiving of the second read. There's just been some minor changes to IKE based on New Hampshire School Board Association recommendations. That's fairly straightforward policy. So the waiving of the second read is really just because it's just a slight modification. Do you want to?
Is there a motion to accept IKE and waive the second read?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The second, or the next policy for the board to consider is policy EB, which is workplace safety and joint loss management. There are some changes both to this and coming up policy EBB, which will be presented to the board next month. But so EB is put forth just for your first read. So if you have any questions or comments on EB between now and the next meeting, please reach out to either myself or Melissa Mussey.
Okay, any questions? All right. And the next is curriculum, I think.
Mhm.
Yes.
Curriculum met on October 24th. The minutes are in your packet, but Randy provided us with a NEASC update that was provided to him from David Miller. And we just had some discussion around that and asked, I think, a lot of questions, actually. So he was going to follow up, and then there'll be a full board report at some point or in April. Okay. Thank you. We also had the beginning stage conversation about cell phones in school. Obviously, that's going to be a topic that's going to take time and research and a lot of information, but eventually the goal would be to present to the full board and also probably the policy committee around some of the information that we develop over the next few meetings. We also, same type of thing, beginning discussions about world language at the elementary level. Just really trying to determine if we're meeting the needs with the program that we have right now. And at our next meeting, we are looking forward to having the elementary administrator's perspective on that. We don't have any action. Yes. Yeah.
Teachers certified in world language teaching it, or is it?
We do. We have two elementary teachers teaching both Spanish and French as part of the UA rotation. So it's one day a week for 45 or 47 minutes, whatever that is. So it's part of that rotation.
Okay. Transportation.
We had a meeting on November 2nd.
Have you got your microphone on? Because the folks at home can't hear if you don't have that on.
We had a meeting November 2nd. Is it on?
Yeah.
Good. And to talk about bus leases, we had the district submitted an RFP and only one vendor, WC Cressy, responded. And we were looking for 2 buses. We were looking for a 14 passenger bus and for a 29 to 30 passenger bus. And the 29 to 30 passenger bus is in stock and we can get it right away. The 14 passenger bus would have to be built and be available in 2023. It was $81,240, but they had an alternative bus, a 24 passenger bus that was built and ready for pickup for $79,150. So it was actually cheaper. It would meet the same needs as a 14 passenger bus. And so we have a motion to, we had a motion to recommend the purchase of the 29 to 30 passenger bus and the 24 passenger bus with 3-year financing. And the motion passed and we're bringing it to the board.
So do you want to make a motion for
Yes.
the board
Yes.
to, motion would be are we purchasing or leasing?
Leasing.
Leasing a 29 to 30 passenger bus and a 24 passenger bus
Yes.
From WC Cressy.
from WC Cressy
For a
Yes.
total of,
for a total of,
The 29 passenger bus is 77,000, the 24 passenger bus is 79,150.
yeah, 156.
156,
156,
150.
150. Is there a second to the motion? Any questions, comments, discussion?
I do have one. Oh,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I don't know if it's going to answer your question, that it's within budget, that this is a
Yep.
budgeted amount and
It's
it's,
part of it.
and it's, yeah, I anticipated that one. And so this falls within our regular bus replacement cycle.
And these are Thomas buses which we get with in like before, so familiar buses.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Facilities?
Yes, so we had our facilities meeting just before this meeting today, and on the agenda we discussed Washington Street School and Fred gave us a nice presentation about all the work that needs to be done to on this building to keep utilizing it for the students. So in light of the work that needs to be done on the property, the facilities committee is going to be putting forth a request to contract with NIA to provide a market-based appraisal for the building at $2,800.
So are you making that motion?
I am making the motion that we approve this.
Okay. Could you give a little more explanation, please?
Yeah, sure. So, this appraisal would be a market-based appraisal. So they would go through and, do comps and all that fun stuff. But, I feel that this is valuable for us so that we understand the investment of this building and how we can move forward with Washington Street, knowing all the information we can, including, the cost of work, which is not included on the study, but the cost of work versus the market value and how it is used by our students and some of our partners in the community right now. So do you have any questions about it? I do have a copy of the letter here that Fred gave me from NIA. I can read it out loud if folks would like.
Do we have tenants in that building right now?
We have, I know, oh my goodness, CSI, thank you. I kept trying to say CIA. I'm like, no. CSI is there, along with some community members use it for sporting events. And I believe he mentioned there's a train club that meets, a train club. Train club's still there. So it is being utilized by the community as well as the district.
Mark, can you say a little bit more about why it makes sense to do this now?
Yeah. So I think anytime that we investigate a building and programming within a building, very similarly when we started doing our small school study and we started thinking about what happens if we combine schools, if we close one of the schools and what that looks like, we learned from our mistakes. And prior to launching into any of that kind of conversation, we want to be very transparent with the board and get the board's permission to impanel a group to do a market analysis study / valuation of what Washington Street School is worth on the open market. So that can be part of the conversation when we're looking at whether we're going to expand programming, maintain programming, change where programming exists. And we talked a lot about the value, like tangible and intangible value of the Washington Street School in that it serves a very significantly needy population of students. And also with our partners over at Washington Street School, CSI, which additionally serves a very needy population of students. And the value that adds just to our community and to our student body. And I talked a little bit about some research that I knew about back in 2014 that spoke to the value of students who were not dropping out of high school. So that was part of it. And we always want to make sure that's part of the conversation because we're talking about serving students and what's best for that. But as we look at that building, it's important to know what it's worth. And for us to know what it's worth, we need to impanel an organization that does this for a living. And we had the value back in 2014. And back then we had a position paper that spoke to this in some level of detail. And I think there was a market value also done back in 2008. And the market values shifted significantly from 2008 to 2014, but it may have shifted again. As anyone knows, the market has changed quite a bit recently, especially in the last few years. Again, just we wanted to make sure that we thought about this in a very proactive and transparent way, and that instead of trying to just solve problems in one meeting, that we move forward in a strategic and applicable manner.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, are there questions? Yes.
So we will have this research done, and then we have tenants there, and we have repairs that need to be made. So would the culmination of all this information then result in some adjustment in our pricing as we lease these out, the various aspects of this building out to the public?
I think that you can probably guess what my answer is going to be, and the answer is potentially.
I turned it off too. I turned it on, then I turned it off. I've turned it back on again. I just wanted to say too that Fred pointed out that CSI has been not only a long-term tenant, but a really fantastic tenant. They, when we had to pave over there at, they paid for half of it, and they didn't have to pay for half of it. And they have done a lot of work on their space that we didn't have to pay for. And as a tenant, they're a tenant. We could have, as landlords, been responsible for all of that, and they've done a lot of work on that. So it's really important. And as Mark said, that whole building serves, I know it doesn't serve a lot of students, but it serves a really important population of students that we really need to think about. And if we were to move those students, we really need to make sure that we can still maintain both of those programs. And I don't know, I just think it's really important that we have all the information that we have before we make any decision at all. And I think this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way to get started on it anyway.
And the gym is still being used a lot by various teams.
Yeah, Fred said that the gym is used every night of the week.
Yeah, I think it's Monday through Saturday, was it?
Monday through
Yeah.
Saturday, yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion before us is to spend, I think it's $2,800.
$2,800.
$2,800 to hire NIA
Mhm.
Norwood to do a market analysis
Mhm.
of the building.
Mhm.
Is that? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we need to set any committee reports while we're on?
Does policy have to meet? I assume we do. Yeah.
Just while I'm thinking about it?
Yes, policy would like to meet curriculum. You want
I think we
to, we say the 21st, we're going to try to, so.
at
Um,
5:30.
All right.
Okay.
So if we can have curriculum at 5:30 on November 21st, and then policy at 6:30 on November 21st, even though somebody is making faces at me for choosing that day. So we'll go 5:30 for curriculum and 6:30 for policy on the 21st.
On the 21st.
21st.
And a reminder
So-
that
Long-range plan already has a meeting
on the
set
14th.
On the 14th.
Yeah.
And so is long-range plan.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then every day in December, finances meeting.
Yes, right. Okay.
In between negotiations.
Yeah,
and other
right,
things.
yeah, exactly.
It's a busy
Okay.
month.
So is that all the committees that we need to set meetings for?
Please, yes.
What was wrong with you?
No, that's good.
Okay. Old business. Free and reduced numbers update.
Yeah, so Randy is going to slow clap Miss Becky Kennedy up here to add some numbers, but this is based on a request from a board member as a topic for the upcoming board meeting. And in the packet on page, the last page, so you'll see that there are some numbers that indicate the percentage of free and reduced and raw numbers for free and reduced that we have now. And we did a look back to 2017. This is based on the October 1st numbers, and this will be the acronym of the day, the BOY file, the beginning of year submission. And this shows that although you see a lull in free and reduced numbers that happened during COVID, that was really based on the fact that meals were free. Now that meals are not free, we've been very aggressive throughout to ensure that folks are filling out. It's more than just an application, as you know, a free and reduced lunch application. So we have pretty much returned to pre-pandemic percentages, but Becky is going to talk a little bit more about some of the circumstances underneath the numbers.
Great, thank you. So I actually had the opportunity to sit in on a breakout group with New Hampshire Hunger Solutions at a Concord Connections Coalition meeting, which falls monthly the day after the board meeting. So that was excellent timing. So just to give some systems level data and level set, in New Hampshire, no county exceeds 58% of SNAP eligible, meaning folks who may qualify for SNAP, which is similar to TANF and free and reduced lunch numbers. In Merrimack County, 55% of eligible folks actually utilize SNAP. So those numbers are low across the board, not just free and reduced lunch at Merrimack Valley School District. Some data based around August, there are 147,000 households with children reporting having insufficient food. That jumped to 184,000 households in September. So a 25% increase in the state of New Hampshire. Statewide, 46% of students who are eligible for free and reduced meals who already participate in school lunch participate in the school breakfast. So less than half actually access breakfast if they're free or reduced lunch in our schools. There has been some movement at the state and federal level through the USDA. There's a project that states can apply for that would use Medicaid eligibility data to directly qualify students, which would increase the number of students who could access free and reduced lunch. New Hampshire did not participate in that this year, and that leaves around 7,000 students who could have been eligible, not currently eligible. So just some systems level.
Are they not eligible or?
Not currently qualified based on not having direct Medicaid to school access. So what do those numbers look like in terms of students accessing? I worked with Chris and Wendy just to get some raw data on our students comparing September 2021 to September 2022. For students accessing free breakfast, there was a 14% decrease in breakfast orders. For students who received reduced lunch prices, there was a 44% decrease in students accessing reduced breakfast orders. And for full pay students between comparing September 2021 to September 2022, there was a 67% decrease in full pay meals served. In terms of, so total combined of free, reduced, and full pay, there was a 54% decrease overall in the number of breakfast meals served between September 2021 and September 2022. And in October, there was a 63% decrease in the number of breakfast meals served. For lunch numbers, September, comparing 2021 to 2022, there was a 19% decrease in the number of meals served for lunch, and that's a combination of free, reduced, and full pay. In October, free, reduced, and full pay, there was a 13% decrease in the number of meals served in October of 2022 compared to 2021. So a decrease overall in our free, reduced, and full pay students accessing meals when there was cost this year compared to last year when all meals were free.
Thank you. Discouraging.
Tomorrow's
think-
election day.
I just want to make sure I understand about this Medicaid linked process. So the state of New Hampshire opted out of allowing the schools to use Medicaid data?
They did not opt out. They did not
Oh,
submit
they
an
did not-
application.
They did not
for
submit
the
an
project.
application. Okay, so it was even that. So it didn't submit an application and we lost. And how many students did you say were eligible? I just didn't catch the number.
So in conversation with Chris and Wendy,
Mhm.
I think the number's around 7,000 students in the state of New Hampshire
Thank you.
could have had access if we did direct Medicaid to school access.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Lori has
looks like
one.
Lori has
Go
one.
ahead. Lauren.
Laura, can you turn on your microphone? Thank you.
Troubling me. Am I on now? This is troubling me. So what I see here is that we have students who would have accessed food, but no longer access food. And we don't know why. We don't know whether the obstacle is the cost, the paperwork, or perception. But we could have in our school, and likely do, hungry students.
Absolutely. Is this on?
Yes.
Just some follow-up date. I'm going to hold this. This is just throwing it out there, if we could get our percentages, if we were enrolled in a Medicaid eligible student pathway up to 40% in our district, that would mean free meals for all of our students.
And we're pretty close in some of our schools, aren't we?
Yeah, we're overall in the district, we're about 27, just under 27%. And Boscawen used to be higher. That's why they're a Title I school. And Pennacook used to be around that 40%. That's why they're a Title I school. Boscawen has since decreased. And it's nuanced. And I know that Chris and Wendy are, and everyone here knows that it's nuanced. And I know that Chris and Wendy in the food service program are all over it. But it could be a combination of things. And hopefully it's not students going hungry, but there are students who are going hungry. We can't avoid that. It could be that more students are bringing food from home because now that food is no longer free here at the school, they're packing lunches. I do think that they've seen an uptick of students bringing their own food in. So that goes somewhere into the mix here when it comes to looking at the numbers. But certainly, it's something that we're very cognizant of.
Well, I can only speak for Boscawen, but I know our backpack numbers are the highest they have ever been in the entire length of time we've had the program in the town of Boscawen. And I was stunned at a nearly doubling of the number of children accessing the backpack food program. So it says to me, there's need, maybe greater need, and we're not addressing it. And I know there are people out there who are going to say it's not the school's job to feed kids, but you know what? If a kid's hungry, they're not learning properly because they're focused on their hunger. So I have a real problem with the fact that there are children here that are hungry.
Can I also just ask one question? Did I understand you correctly? Did Boscawen lose their Title I?
Nope, they didn't lose it.
Okay,
Nope.
cool. I was like,
Yep.
oh.
No, it's just 40% is what you need to
Uh-huh.
initiate it.
Okay.
And if you fall too far below when they do
Mhm.
Title I monitoring, you'll probably have to answer some questions. But we're good.
Not kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, because Title I has been great.
Yep.
Just speaking of
And it's still a
PES.
full Title I school. Because they
Boscawen,
will,
Boscawen
had-
and Pennacook are, yes.
because they can be a Title I school and not, they can have Title I and not be a Title I school, right?
They can have Title I and we cannot be a Title I district. Yeah, but they're a Title I school.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. New business, ice hockey. Kenny.
Eric, he's going to steal your mic again.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. When I came before you on October the 3rd, the last board meeting, the discussions with Brady and Concord Christian regarding a co-op in ice hockey were simply conversations. Well, we've progressed to the point where I feel like it's necessary to come before you to ask permission for a co-op for boys ice hockey with Bishop Brady and Concord Christian. So let me give you a little background. The purpose obviously is to provide opportunities for our students that want to represent MV on the ice hockey surface or playing ice hockey. We do have a number of details to pass on to you. Our practice schedule, although is to be determined, it's based on ice time. We do have a location at Tri-Town Ice Arena in Hooksett. Transportation, the students will provide their own transportation to and from practice. However, when it comes to playing the games, we've worked out a situation with Brady and Concord Christian where Brady will provide the transportation. And quite simply, if we travel south of Brady, our students will meet at Brady and we'll all ride the bus together. If the match or the game is north of Brady, then they'll meet here and we'll all still ride the bus from Bishop Brady. And so that's the way we've worked out transportation. In terms of athletic training and medical care of our student athletes, our athletic trainer has been in contact with the Bishop Brady athletic trainer. They've worked out times to be at all practices and all games. Our students will still have access to our athletic trainer here after school and quite possibly before games, depending upon when the games are. We will maintain a very close we'll keep an eye on their medical condition while they play hockey. We're not just going to let them co-op with Brady and forget about them. We're going to make sure we're keeping an eye on them, make sure they're healthy. The cost per student would be $575. Now, my understanding is that a large portion of that goes to ice time to help rent the ice, which, again, my understanding being from Virginia, I'm not too familiar with ice time, but I've learned a lot over the last 2 weeks, and apparently it is quite expensive. We are also paying for a portion of the referees, which I found out at our information meeting at Brady a couple of weeks ago. So I approached the athletic director at Brady to get a breakdown of how much the referees' cost would be to see if we could help supplement some of that from our athletic department to help lessen the cost for our student athletes. There is an 18-game regular season schedule that is currently up online under Bishop Brady. Now, if we were to approve this and the co-op was approved by the NHIAA, then obviously it would be Brady Valley Concord Christian, because according to the NHIAA, all three names have to appear in the name of the co-op. So just a few other facts. Students will register on the Bishop Brady Family ID registration form or platform, but they will also register with Final Forms, our new registration platform at Valley. So we'll be tracking their grades, we'll be tracking their health, and everything that we would track for a student athlete that participates on campus. Again, the coaching staff will be provided by Brady. John Thomas is the head coach, very well-known coach in the area. And listening to him talk to the student athletes the other night at the informational meeting, he is very disciplined, and all athletes will be treated equally, regardless of what school they come from. So that's kind of my background. We have met with Bishop Brady and Concord Christian. We had 9 student athletes sign up in-house. We had 6 of those attend the meeting, with 2 others told me that they would have been there had they not had conflicts. I was at the meeting as well. It was very well done, well put together by Brady. I feel very confident that this is something that is sustainable past this year. So having said that, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Are the student athletes paying that money? Who's the 500 and whatever?
575, yes. The student athletes will be responsible for paying that. And I realize it sounds on the surface like a lot of money, but when you look at the junior hockey leagues and how much student athletes are paying there, this is a much better deal. Plus, we're going to try to supplement some of that in the form of referee cost, if we can.
Do you have a number of students who are interested in this, or do you know yet?
We had 9 sign up. 6 attended the informational meeting at Brady. Another 2 said that they would have been there had they not had work conflicts or other conflicts. So 8 out of the 9 have actually followed through with something after signing up. Yes. You know, I've had that question by a couple of parents. We had 1 female sign up, and I went ahead and allowed any female students that wanted to sign up just to see what the interest would be. At this point, there is no co-op opportunity. I think Bishop Brady has a co-op at Goffstown and possibly Wyndham or somebody south of us. So
For their girls team.
For their girls team.
Yeah.
At this point, it's just a boys' opportunity.
Yeah, Sally.
Would that create any Title IX issues? Oh, sorry. Okay. Would that create any Title IX issues?
I don't think so. I think the volleyball would counteract that.
Mhm. Yes. I might add that we had a fantastic volleyball senior day today. We had a large number of fans in the stands, and we honored our seniors. And very happy to report the faculty won 2-1. So,
All right.
although the students did put up a great fight.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, going back to the cost, if a student doesn't find that within their family's ability to pay, do we have like scholarship kind of programs that would allow for them to join? To
We
make
don't
it
have anything
accessible?
formal. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Getting this off the ground right now, we don't have anything formal, but we would do everything in our power from the athletic department standpoint to try to fund that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fantastic idea, just to make it accessible.
So this is similar to like ski club where they pay to go skiing.
In a
Yeah,
way.
except for
Anyway.
this is a competition, so this is an
This is
NHIA.
competitive.
Yeah.
And David's going to respond to your
David,
question about
yeah.
scholarships.
Well, we don't have scholarships in place for funding mechanism, but I'll tell you that anyone who has children who's played hockey, it's a very, very expensive sport. And I can tell you that growing up in Claremont, Stevens High School had a hockey team back in the day, and it disbanded because the ice time was too expensive at Kimball Union Academy. When you talk about skates, sticks, and the equipment, it's not a sport for someone to just show up on a Monday afternoon and say, hey, I think I want to play hockey. If they don't have the gear, it's more likely than not they won't be able to play. Bob Polisi at Bryan, they do a great job down there at selling secondhand equipment. But yeah, typically the students who would come out to play hockey are those who have been playing at a young age. And the co-op movement, I'll tell you that it's statewide. And there are a lot of schools, Division I schools, that co-op, because hockey as a high school sport is really a dying sport in New Hampshire because of the increase in clubs. We've had a few students over the years play for the Junior Monarchs. And so I think that this is great. And I want to thank Kenny for doing the legwork and working with Bishop Brady. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Valley kids because, as you all know, we won't be building a rink in Loudon anytime soon. And a lot of the feeder programs are in a more centralized location like Concord and Hooksett and Manchester. It doesn't matter where the students live, that's where the feeder programs are. And so I think it's a great opportunity. And when you look at the fact that Manchester Memorial, Manchester Central, and Manchester West, and a hockey town in New Hampshire, the three of them co-op to have a high school team, as well as the two high schools in Nashua, it really says a lot about the sport in the state.
Thank you. Is there a motion to, go ahead,
I was going to just make a motion.
please do.
Can I just ask a quick question before? Sorry.
You said the practice facility is going to be Tri-Town in Hooksett. Is that
Yes.
typically been the practice place for Bishop Brady? It was always Everett and Concord, right? I'm just thinking Hooksett is like, ooh.
Right, and I agree. From what I understand in conversations with people at Brady and the AD over there, it used to be Everett Ice Arena.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, I think they got pushed out maybe by the junior leagues,
Yeah.
maybe by Concord High School, I know has always practiced over there. So I think they found it easier just to go to Tri-Cities. But whatever, that may
Tri-Town's
change
way
down the
nicer
road.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, once they bring us and Concord Christian, and there may be more of a movement to move back to Everett because it's more locally based. But at this time, it's Tri-City.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Sure.
And again, the kids who play hockey,
I know.
the travel is,
Yeah.
it's an expectation.
Yeah. I was a hockey aunt for 8 years.
Yes.
Because my husband coached it.
Kathleen's
Tracy.
having flashbacks right now.
I'm very excited about this. though.
I-
I mean, as a retired hockey mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So
I-
one quick.
Well, let's have a motion and then we'll continue. Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to say before I made the motion
Oh,
that
what?
this is fabulous, Kenny. Thank you so very much, because I was a teacher in this building for 23 years, and there were kids who played hockey who asked every year if we could have a hockey team here at the Valley, and it wasn't possible. And obviously, it's still not really possible because we are co-op. And this co-op movement is like just the greatest thing in the world, I think, especially for our kids, so that we can, those kids who really want this will have the opportunity. So I want to make a motion that we approve co-opting with Brady and Concord Christian for ice hockey.
There's a second. And Lori, did you say go ahead.
So,
Microphone.
Kathleen, maybe you're elderly enough to remember this, but there was.
Whoa. Shots fired.
But I was looking around the room, and I don't think there's anyone left here who will remember this, but there was a family in our community who was willing to put up substantial funding to have, you remember this, Laura? Okay, to have ice hockey here at Merrimack Valley. I don't know that I remember who the family was, but I'm wondering if there's a concern with the cost and children not being able to participate, if that same family might be willing to sponsor our team.
I mean, I'm sure I can come up with the name.
Yeah.
But I agree with what David said. Anybody who's currently playing, and if they're going to play at the high school level, $500 and whatever $70 is
Right.
nothing. It's nothing.
Right.
So I mean, if they're playing, then they're playing.
Mm.
So I don't think that that's.
On the other hand, if they want to play, it's
But
new.
you also can't decide now you want to start playing high school hockey and start playing in 2 weeks, because you either know how to play or it's not. No
You've been
offense to
playing
some
since you
other
were
sports,
6,
but
yeah.
you
Right.
can't. Yeah, so you can't just decide tomorrow and grab a pair of skates.
There's something that bothers me a little bit. It's that it's not really a school team. It's an opportunity. It's not a school team.
No, it's a school team.
Well,
It's a shared school team.
it's not a school team if not everyone has access to it in that way. I
Not
mean,
everybody makes any team.
Right.
I know, but they'll have an opportunity to try out.
Anybody who wants to try out can try out.
But I mean,
if-
it's just the money thing.
If I could jump in.
It's not as
Yeah.
much of a, I mean, it's a good opportunity. But you can't really think of, oh, this is the MV soccer team or something, because that's available to all the kids.
Well, it's an NHIAA rule that when you have a co-op situation, you're not allowed to make cuts. So whoever wants to be on the team and can afford to be on the team, with or without our help, will be on the team. And the hope is that this is a co-op for a couple of years, and then we establish a standalone team at Merrimack Valley. That's the hope down the road. And that's one of the reasons we want to get this off the ground. It's very similar to volleyball. We found not only did we continue to improve our numbers of volleyball, even though it was a club, it was just MV. Our numbers improved from beginning to the end of the season. And then today we were approached by a group of boys that also wanted to start a boys volleyball club because they were motivated by how hard the girls worked and how far they had come. So that's a similar path we'd like to take, although a more expensive one, I will agree, but it's a similar path we'd like to take with ice hockey and eventually get to the point where we could add girls ice hockey as well.
So one other question, does that 575 include uniforms? I'm presuming there's going to be some sort of unifying look for this team.
Yes, exactly. And David mentioned Bob Polisi down at Bryant already has the uniform design made up. And what we're going to do the first year, because time is of the essence, we're going to take Brady's hockey uniforms because Valley doesn't have any hockey uniforms. So Brady has the existing uniform. Bob is going to add the word Valley to the front of it and then put CCA on the back of the uniform. And then the helmets will be the gold helmets that Brady normally uses, but we'll have the Valley V on one side, the double B for Bishop Brady on the other, and then Concord Christian will be on the back. So the design, all of the groundwork is pretty much in place. It's just going through the process of getting it approved, not only by the school board, but also the NHIAA.
They're going to look like NASCAR racers.
Yeah.
So that kind of clarifies it. It's not just another MV team. It's kind of
It's a co-op.
a special opportunity out there.
Yep.
So-
And it's really nuanced because hockey it's a nuanced sport.
I
It's,
know.
yeah, you don't jump in at 17 years old and say, hey, I want to be a hockey player.
So
I tried it at 40 something and I
So you own
No, it
your
didn't do well.
equipment?
All right.
You
any-
personally own your equipment, but your uniform housing is school provided.
Precisely.
Okay, got it.
Yes, yes. You own your skates, your pads, everything like that. Yes.
Okay, any other questions? You ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Unfinished learning.
Yep. Randy will introduce that.
Randy, unfinished learning.
We might have to.
We're gonna move.
Here, I'll move right here. Here, I'll move right here.
Oh, I can do it.
So as you've heard me mention before, and Bev has addressed you briefly in the past, Bev, Dr. Punton is our unfinished learning coordinator. And it was requested that she give a little bit of an update about what that means, where we're going, what we've been seeing. So I'm going to turn this over to her and let her fill you in a little bit.
Thank you. I can do it. I'm fine. That's how I practice like 20 times today. All right. So, the Concord Monitor, kind of already, stole my thunder a little bit, but they published recently the SAS results. So the state test. And so we saw improvement over the previous school year. In reading, we are at the 47th percent proficient, which was an 8 percentage point increase from the previous year. Math, we're at 40% proficient, which was a 12 percentage point increase. And for math, we are now at the state average for the number of students percent proficient and very close to where we were pre-pandemic. But not only is it just that we've starting to come back up, I think it's really important to look at the percent of growth that we made last year. So if you look at from 2021 to last year, we had a 43% increase going from 28 to 40% proficient, and the state was at 5%. And looking at some of the things, the factors that have allowed us to make this significant growth was that back in 2018-19, we implemented a new math program at the middle school. And we can see that the scores were starting to increase in the 2018-2019 school year. The high school adopted, starting with the Algebra 1 program, that same program, math program, and in 2019-2020, a lot of those teachers were also teaching Algebra 2 and geometry, and they piloted those programs and then adopted them. So we were starting in 2019-2020, the Open Up program from middle to through Algebra 2, 6th grade through Algebra 2. And again, other things that factors that allowed us to make this increase is the support of the district math coordinator, Jess Jocks, having those collaborative conversations focused on learning outcomes. And in 2019-2020, she implemented a scope and sequence, so focusing on the key concepts, knowing which standards were the major standards and the supporting standards, giving teachers clarity of what that program should look like, what the standard should look like. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't able to see how that would improve our scores. But during COVID, a positive outcome was that we were focused on the learning outcomes, looking at the key components of the curriculum. And that is, again, allowing us to make that recovery. And there is a new math program, as you know, being implemented at the elementary school. For reading, we had a 21% increase in growth, and the state had a decrease of 2%. So again, we are getting closer to the state average than we were in the last few years. And then adding again that we have a new ELA district coordinator, which will help support those collegial conversations, focus on curriculum, focus on data, modeling best practices, which will again hope to and will improve scores. And some of the supports that have been in place before the pandemic and during and after. We have created different programs that meet students' learning needs and academic needs, but also meeting their social emotional needs as well. And some of those things were the summer enrichment programs at the middle and high school, tutoring programs, adding new co-curriculars, like there's a new esports co-curricular at the middle school. And so finding ways that we can engage and re-engage our students. State test prep, expanding the support lab at the middle school. So last year there were 4 teachers, 1 math teacher at each grade level, and an 8th grade ELA teacher that were working at providing targeted support. That is expanded to almost all of the math and ELA teachers at the middle school. And then the work that Becky Kennedy is doing with the MTSSB. I lost my screen. And then some of the things that I've been doing, I looked at the summer enrichment program and created a profile of what is the typical student that attended the summer enrichment program this past summer. I looked at the reading readiness data and presented those findings to the elementary administrative team. I provided some more usually friendly SAS and NEWA data for the high school for their freshman math and English classes. Same with looking at the NEWA data for the support lab teachers and math and ELA teachers. Yep, I'm going really fast.
No, I just want you, for the benefit of the crowd, acronym check, SAS and NEWA.
Oh, yeah.
Go.
SAS is the state test. NEWA, Northwest Educational Association, that is the MAP test that students take multiple times during the year, beginning, middle, and end of the year.
And MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress.
Thank you. You got me on that one. I've also been collaborating with the math and ELA teachers, support lab teachers, helping them look at the data and find the tier 2 students that we should be targeting and providing them, looking at what supports they need and help them focus on what we can do to move those students to proficient levels. And then I did recently do a 5-year looking at the state data and provided in math and ELA to provide the district coordinators and the chairs of the curriculum committees, what are the areas of need and what progress have we been making over the 5-year span. And then I looked at the testing boot camp data. So the middle school had a testing boot camp. And so I looked at that student performance, and both in math and English reading, they improved. Yep. So they, over a 3-week period, some parents were offered, said, do you want to sign your students up? And so they came and they were looking at test taking strategies, but also key features of their grade level test. So I didn't teach that, but I just generally what they did. And so scores did go up for them. And then one of the things that I was looking at was the summer enrichment program. And the reason why I was looking at that is that looking at creating a profile of this typical student. And I created a survey that went out to parents and students who attended about their experiences. And so collecting data so that we could look at if we're going to continue the program, we have the data to say this is how it was working, this is how it supported students, their academic and emotional needs. And that could be helpful for providing continuing funding, getting some insights about what worked and what didn't work in the program, what kids, students enjoyed, and then getting to understand the impact on student learning. So I looked at, when creating the profile, I looked at their state test data, their NEWA data, absences, so the behavior and academics, absences and office referrals. And the typical student, there was a wide range of abilities, but overall, the typical student that attended last summer was in the proficient range on the state tests, above the 50th percentile in their achievement on the NEWA test, the MAP tests. And I think the average for absences was 12, but again, you still have the effects of COVID, so where people had to be out for longer periods of time. Very few office referrals. And surveying the parents and students about some of their experiences. I haven't completely reviewed all of the data yet, but I have just some tidbits to share. And so I had 30 parent responses that represented 32 of the students, and 44 student responses out of the 57 participants. And again, looking at another aspect we could do if we need to, we could expand the program. So could this data be used and coordinated with Becky Kennedy and seeing, okay, how can we target maybe some tier 2 students? If students are coming to school in a more relaxed atmosphere, learning and having different experiences that they normally wouldn't have in the summer, maybe they're making those connections, building those relationships, and feeling more supported when they are in school. And just looking at couple of the questions that I asked. So just in general, did you enjoy attending the program? And so the red is the results of the students, the blue is the parents' results. And so on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 saying that you enjoyed the program, 1 not so much. Students enjoyed it. Parents said that their students did too. And a couple of just some quotes, because you gotta have some quotes. And keeping true to their words, I did note the spelling. I left the spelling errors there. So I really liked the hiking club. It got me more active and it was really fun. It's a chance to hang out with people that have the same interests as me. And then another student said, I got to do 3 different things that I really like. I met a lot of new people too. The teachers were really nice as well. A few parents said, I got her out of the house, gave her something productive to do, ease her anxiety about starting a new school. He learned a lot from the cooking class and brought those skills home and made recipes at home too. He also learned about the fishing, a lot from the fishing class. And it provided her with healthy exercise options, team building activities, and life skills practice. And so again, if I look at some of the quotes that I was seeing, just the general themes coming out, parents said things like it gave students structure over the summer. Both students and parents said it lessened their anxiety. They were making friends. So again, building those relationships, connecting with teachers. There was less boredom and there's production, being more productive over the summer and gaining confidence. And then asking how connected you were to school. So again, the students, maybe not as much saying that, but generally they were, over 50, 60% said that they felt more connected to school. Parents, 80% said that they were, again, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 saying that you were connected. Again, that students felt more comfortable being at the school. There were a lot of 6th graders, so that anxiety of joining a new school, gaining confidence and making friends, so just always very important at middle school. So a couple of comments here saying, I think the summer enrichment program helped me get used to the school and the different feeling. It also helped me get used to some of people there. The writing class can help me better in writing essays for class. It allows me to keep learning at school over the summer. And a few parent comments. He was more comfortable in getting started, met some of his teachers and peers, kept his school in mind through the summer. Because every kid wants that, right? She felt like she was more part of the MVMS community by being able to spend time with students and staff in a more relaxed setting. And then I had 2 kids attend. One was a new 6th grader. The program helped him familiarize himself with the school, staff, and peers. My 8th grader made new friendships, and she was excited to continue in the fall. So again, I have still some other work to do in looking at kind of coming up some themes. And I was planning to do some random sampling and doing some interviews and kind of getting in more depth of how the students felt about the program and how it's helping them. You know, it might not, I don't know, but is it helping them feel more connected? Will that lead to more improved student outcomes? So I will continue to track their test data through the year and attendance and behavior. And all in one breath, I did all of that. So that's it. Any questions?
So
Hi.
looking at the test data, the state has changed test
Mhm.
devices, tools, whatever
Mhm.
you want to call it, all over the years. So how reliable is that data? How consistent is it?
I think if I go back to the graph, again, I can't say that completely. I mean, there always is maybe some discrepancies there. You might be able to answer that better. I think another thing to look at too, there were less students that took the test. So the 21, 22, I think we had 84% participate, and we were at 90 the year before, or 94% the year before. Because I was keeping that in the back of my mind because I thought that was important information.
Does that skew the data then to have that sort of difference?
I know the answer.
Yeah, I know you do. You go ahead and explain it.
I'll go short cord. So they actually fill in the numbers. They use a statistical algorithm called multiple imputations, and they call that statistical fairy dust, where they fill in the gaps. And it really is pretty contentious. I think both Catherine and I were at that meeting where they talked about it. And so they've done, I can answer both your questions. They did a crosswalk between the former state testing and the current state testing. So they feel pretty confident that crosswalk allows them to compare data over multiple years. They were probably trying to convince themselves a little bit, but they did it. And then when it comes to participation rates, I believe at the state level, zeros don't count against us in the data. At the federal level, when they report out zeros do count against you, they have to report out those zeros being students that didn't take the test. But when they're talking about that, they are using multiple imputations to fill in some of the gaps to make sure that they are able to compare results year over year. Multiple imputations.
So the data I was showing was from 2017, which was the current test. So because I didn't want to compare to a different test, you're right. So that just looking at this is the type of test we're looking at there at this point. Again, I haven't done everything that I want to do, but I have looked at, again, the 5-year span and looking at each standard and seeing where were we before, where are we now, have we made recovery, which standards, because there were in 3rd grade before the pandemic, all 25 standards we were above the state standard, above standard. We've recovered about half. So we're getting there. And again, that recovery shows because we are back. And I think a lot of districts are still working towards that too, in that recovery piece. Concord was 30% math. Just not to say, but again, so I think the things that we've been putting in place have had an impact, and where we had that 43% growth from the year before. And I'll be delving into other things too, looking at that data and the NEWA data too. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Informative meeting.
Very informative. Where are we? Oh.
When you hear Dr. Punton talk about random sampling, you know that she's fresh off her doctorate.
Manifest and journal entries. Tracy and I have both signed off on them. You've all had an opportunity to see them electronically. Could I have a motion to accept them, please?
So moved.
Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, I just have a couple things to report. We have a date on December 14th to take our road show to Loudon. We're going to do our listening session in Loudon on December 14th at 6:30 following their PTA meeting. Is that right, Catherine?
What day of the week?
It's a Wednesday, and I know some of you have Wednesday conflicts, and I get that, and hopefully several of you can make it. The meeting in Pennacook was informative, and we look forward to having a similar experience in Loudon. We'll use the same agenda, 6:30.
Thank you.
And I think you all got an email today letting you know that we've reached out to the select boards to try to save a date for our annual meeting with them in January. The date is January 11th, which is also a Wednesday at 6:30. That's all I have. Randy?
I also just have a couple of things. In your packet, you'll notice the suicide prevention and behavior response plan. That by statute, we have to relook at that every 2 years. And really the changes that you've seen are just contact information, phone numbers, making sure everything is fresh and connected. As we add things to it, we just make those part of the plan. It's kind of a working document, but because by statute we want to show it to you every couple of years. Becky Kennedy did the lion's share of the work on getting changes and making sure we were totally up to date with this. We appreciate her work, and if you have any questions, reach out to either Becky or myself, and we can certainly help you with that unless you have questions today. Second, you may notice on the front of your packet a familiar face. I'm not sure if any of those three people you've seen before. But on October 19th, Mark Seeley and I got to attend the Woman of Achievement Awards ceremony at Lockmere Country Club. It's for the Franklin Business and Professional Women's Organization. And their Woman of the Year was our own Lori Carey. And it was great to see Lori outside of, how we always see her here at the table, and to hear great things about her from a variety of different groups around the area, and to see that the hard work that she shows us here is also, it doesn't stop when she goes out that door. She's doing about, I don't know, I stopped counting at about 20 different things in different groups that were saying great things about her. So it was a very nice evening, and it was great to hear so many positive things about Lori. I want to congratulate her. So.
And it was a good dinner.
I want to say thank you for the support that you guys gave me by coming. I really appreciated you coming out. I know you didn't need an extra meeting, but I really appreciated you being there.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay.
All right, I will endeavor to be as brief. We have been engaged in lots of NHSAA work, and that's the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. I'm a member of the executive board. Randy and I have been involved in multiple regional collaborations. We're part of the Lakes Region Group, even though we don't have a lake in our region. Not a lot of lakes in our region. I've also, I'm the head of the legislative committee. So actually 2 days from now begins the next round of LSR submissions. So October 9th to October 22nd, legislative service request, LSRs will be being presented probably in a very aggressive fashion. November, sorry, did I say October?
Yeah.
All right, I meant November. They'll be being presented. Last year, I think there were probably 1,400 LSRs, and we try to track all of those that are connected to education. That's a collaborative effort with superintendents from around the state, as well as folks that work at the NHSAA. And I have the pleasure of trying to be part of the communication of that. So that being the case, I think I'm going to be at the State Board of Education meeting this Thursday. It's going to be at the Pennachuck Middle School in Nashua.
Won't that be fun?
It will be fun. And part of the reason to be there is to help spread some of the good things that are happening around the districts. I may somehow sneak in that we had a 48% increase in math. And we also have an increase. What was the increase in ELA? 23%? 21%. 43 and 21. All right. I may have been using a little bit of hyperbole.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Right. We've been really busy with that. So there's a lot. We've been part of we also had the Kidder Law Conference recently and the business operations and finance. So a lot of PD happening with the NHSA as well. And the Kidder Law Conference is always one of the yearly highlights. My keyboard, some of my letters are wearing out on my keyboard. I take a lot of notes there to make sure that we're doing things right. You can see my A, S, D, and C for some reason are wearing out. Yes.
Usually somebody forwards me the electronic documents from that because I love all that. legal
Oh, I'll see if I know anyone that could do that. Yeah. Maybe even include some of my notes. Where was I? Dr. Worm and I were asked to present at the upcoming Christy McAuliffe Technology Conference. I don't know that they're going to put us on a stage again like they did last year. They may have learned from previous transgressions, but we are frequent flyers when it comes to the technology conference. And it's always an honor when they ask us back to present. So we'll learn more about that opportunity as the weeks progress, but that's actually coming up at the end of the month. So that will be here soon. A quick assistant superintendent search update. Folks who are on the committee received an email from me today. The application window closed last Friday. We're excited by the folks that have applied, and we are moving forward. We'll be interviewing in the first round, maybe towards the end of next week. And our goal is to have a candidate for the SAU board to confirm at the December meeting. So we're excited. We're out ahead of the game right now when it comes to employment and educational opportunities. So we're very happy about what's happening thus far. And I don't know if you all know that we have a very skilled chipmunk or squirrel herder in our midst. So Katie, I was surprised that wasn't part of your report, but I'm telling you what, it was, if anybody's seen when Rocky is chasing the chicken in the, I think it's in Rocky 2, after Adrian wakes up from her coma and Mickey tells him to just, she tells him to just win. So very, very similar. So Katie, I'll let you just weave that into your report next time.
Katie, we do have the video. If you'd like, we could put it on the website potentially.
That'd be great.
Was it a chipmunk or a squirrel, Katie? Do you? All right. So a chipmunk got into the main lobby in the high school, and Katie and one of her friends, Molly, I believe, were really able. Katie's faster than a chipmunk. I don't know if you knew that, but they were able to kind of corner it, and Katie's doing. I would have pulled multiple ACLs, and then they got it out into the vestibule, then outside, and I think Katie made sure that it returned home somehow. Yeah. So it was well done. I was impressed. And just a reminder that we're in the midst of budget season, and we're going to have our finance committee meetings coming up, and we look forward to that. It's always an enlightening process. And another reminder for your calendars: the SAU board meeting is on Wednesday, December 7th, and that's at AEMS. So Wednesday, December 7th, 7 p.m. at AEMS. I sent an email to Chris, Michael, and Wendy today to make sure we had some light snacks.
All right.
We won't have a full meal like we do when we have it here, but there will be some light snacks. We have a meeting, SAU folks have a meeting in Andover right before that at 5:30. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you. Topics for the next board meeting, anyone? Okay, go ahead.
Quick question. Preschool stuff?
Preschool study. Is there a preschool study?
I think that was a question mark.
Are you saying discussion of, okay. Anyone else?
This has to get voted on.
Okay. Do we want to do a preschool study? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So just for the next
Uh.
board meeting will be a topic about how to begin the engagement of a preschool study. You don't want us to have a preschool study done by the next board
No.
meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Chop, chop.
Get right on
Take
that.
take care of that, will you? All right. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? I don't believe we have any need for a non-public session tonight. Therefore, I will
So moved.
entertain, yes. All right, we are adjourned. Don't forget to vote.
Medicare.